thoughts on what's going on with Vigano being excommunicated and all that?
Well, it's very interesting, but first of all, it's been confirmed by very credible sources in France. I mean, people who have talked directly to Bishop Williamson that Bishop Vigano has been conditionally consecrated a bishop by Bishop Williamson. So I consider this to be certain, and I think that's very interesting because we have there a member of the Novus Ordo hierarchy who has come to the conclusion not only that Francis is not the Pope, but also that his own episcopal consecration is doubtful. You know that our Bishop Vigano has been ordained in the traditional rite of ordination, so he didn't need to be reordained a priest, but he, was compelled by his by his studies to consider that his episcopacy was doubtful. And I think that's very interesting because we've been saying that for so many years. But now we have somebody who has been consecrated a bishop, quote unquote, by John Paul II. So it's not anybody, by John Paul II, who chooses to be consecrated by Bishop Williamson. Knowing what Bishop Vigano has said all along, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not affirming this, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has contacted one way or the other the SSPX to be consecrated, conditionally consecrated by them. I don't see why you would address directly Bishop Williamson. I think he went to Bishop Williamson because, and again, that's just a personal thought. I'm not affirming this, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's been a contact between Bishop Vigano and the SSPX. And we know that the policy of the SSPX has been lately to refuse conditional ordinations. So it's more and more a pattern that we hear everywhere, that priests approach the SSPX, are asked to be conditionally consecrated and are being refused. So I don't know for sure, but it's interesting that he turned to Bishop Williamson to get this conditional ordination. Now, what Bishop Vigano has said, especially on June the 28th, I think is very interesting. So some people have their doubts, and I can understand it. They say, oh, he might be somebody who is playing a role and so on. But I don't see at this point how what he's saying right now, especially regarding Francis, the Vatican II, even the predecessors of Francis, he's becoming clearer on that topic, and we've seen a progression in Bishop Vigano. I don't see how he could be playing a game. So now I'm not saying that he's not confused still over certain things. The situation is very confusing, and he's coming from very far. So I would at least give him the benefit of the doubt, and I don't see how the Vatican, at this point, I don't see how the Vatican could take advantage of what Vigano is saying. I think it's rather an eye-opener for many people on the situation of Francis. So very interesting development, and hopefully, we have to be careful for sure. We have to keep our eyes open, but hopefully what he will do and say in the future will confirm a real conversion. And again, the fact to approach not any bishop, but a bishop he's known to have been a controversial bishop, let's say, for his declarations on a certain community, is no little step. It shows that Archbishop Vigano is not too much about what the world thinks at this point.
One of my my problems or issues or whatever about this whole consecration, and if he is, if it seems pretty confirmed, so I'm glad he has been. But why do you think they're not just coming out and talking about it, or at least confirming it, so that so all doubts will be make a public statement?
Right. Oh no, that's definitely a problem. This has to be done. Hopefully, it will be done in the future. I don't know. I don't have an answer to this question, but we cannot say that sacraments, especially the sacrament of Holy Order or sacrament of marriage, are private things that do not affect the common good of the church. Now, there has been, the church would allow in certain circumstances secret marriages or even ordinations going on secretly, but this has to be under very specific circumstances, and I don't see how this would apply to the situation of Bishop Vigano. But I'm suspecting that he will speak about it at some point. It seems that he's waiting sometimes for the right moment to say the right things. So hopefully this is going to come. But yes, I would agree with you that this is a problem. It has to be declared publicly.
Yeah, I think it'd be great because it would at least bring the conversation out about the new rites of consecration ordination that I think many even within the SSPX are just maybe aren't even aware of.
Right.
That there's actually, like, for instance, I remember I was in the SSPX chapel priory where I live. I mean, it's not near where I live, but in the closest one where I live, I noticed that they had a priest, only because someone uploaded a video of them doing the mass there. They had a priest, and I didn't recognize him. I'm familiar with who the priests are there.
Right.
And I looked him up, and he was a Novus Ordo priest who was pretty much did Latin mass primarily.
Right.
And I was like, well, so in the comment section, I asked, hey, has he been conditionally ordained, or like what's going on with who is it? Like, who conditionally ordained him? Has that happened? And they were like, what a ridiculous question to ask. And
right.
If he's doing mass at the SSPX, then he must be good.
He must be valid. Yeah.
That's
I remember being at the seminary in Econ, and there was a Spanish priest who spent a year there. They allowed him to say mass privately, and all of a sudden they almost forced him to be reordained. It seems that he didn't want too much to be reordained, but he just by the pressure of the priest there eventually accepted to be reordained. And so this was a conversation at the seminary at the time. So we're speaking 2010 or something like this. So yeah, there's a change there as well. In the past, there was no question. A Novus Ordo priest was reordained, and now it's the principle is that it's valid, and so therefore, unless there's a very scandalous thing that happened during the ordination of a precise priest or bishop, they will not reordain. Yeah, that's the way it is. So it's good that Vigano, as we say, would bring about this question. That's a big thing.
Yeah, when I did the interview with Bishop Altamira, he talked about this issue about the new rites of consecration and how they had changed their opinion. Like I was always under the impression, that the SSPX had, let's say, doubts about the new consecration rites. Like they had but they weren't willing to. They weren't always going to say it's always invalid or whatever, but that it's doubtful maybe, or depending on who does it or performs it. But what Bishop Altamira was saying was that he was taught they were invalid where he was at. That they were.
Yeah, I can say Bishop Altamira has been ordained a priest in the SSPX before me. When I was at the seminary, so we're speaking 2005, 2011. We were taught, and it was also a different seminary, so that might change a little bit. We were taught that it was doubtful, but doubtful. When we speak of the sacraments of the church, doubtful would mean invalid. It means we have to consider act as if they were invalid, and then therefore give at least a conditional ordination. And
another thing that His Excellency mentioned when I interviewed him, and this was he mentioned that he was only familiar with where he was at in Argentina and Colombia. And maybe it was different in maybe they were taught maybe different other places, but he mentioned, and this relates a little bit to Bishop Williamson consecrating Bishop Vigano, is that he was saying that the SSPX resistance has a similar view to the SSPX regarding the new rights of consecration, and I was very surprised by that. I thought for sure. I thought the resistance had pretty much the same view as Sedevacantists typically had on the new rights, but he was saying no, but they're willing to do it. They're just more willing to do it.
Right. Bishop Williamson is more open to do conditional consecrations and ordinations, but the official position of the resistance is very similar to the SSPX. They're just a step behind. It's not. They don't question the principles of the SSPX. They're just a step behind, and eventually will move in the same direction if they continue in this way.
So I'm guessing that I'm assuming Bishop Vigano clearly had his doubts about the new. If he to do that, he clearly had his doubts. Right. I just really wish they would just come out and talk about why they did it, and and Bishop Williamson could talk about why he's willing to conditionally ordain or conditionally consecrate or whatever.
From what I've heard, it seems that Bishop Williamson says that it's up to Bishop Vigano to it's for him to declare it and to present it. So he's done what Bishop Vigano was requesting from him. So we can question all of this, but it seems that this is the mindset. He's waiting, and he's not willing to push Bishop Vigano into making that declaration, but we'll leave it to him to speak about it. So there might be reasons that we don't know also behind all this, so we have to be patient and wait.
I know.
But it's normal that as long as people don't have a declaration, at least an explicit declaration, that they would consider Bishop Vigano to be a doubtful bishop. I mean, there's so many people who could say, I've been ordained by Bishop Williamson. Well, show us the proof,
What are your thoughts on him? Let's say like the SSPX kind of condemning his actions or not supporting his. Are you surprised by that, or are
yes? I think he's disturbing the chess game right now. So there's a few players that are not very happy because they have held the positions for quite a while. And all of them would like this kind of personage to defend their positions, say the same as what they say. And, Bishop Vigano comes out with a different position, a different viewpoint. He's clearly embracing our position. And this is disturbing for them because it accuses them, like Bishop Vigano has said such things such as whoever is in communion, no Catholic worthy of this name can be in communion with Francis. Well, they declare themselves to be in communion with Francis. So, and the whole world is listening to that. Bishop Vigano has a great audience. There's a lot of people who are interested in the Vigano case. So obviously they had, and also, Bishop Vigano sided with Archbishop Lefebvre. He invoked the name of Bishop Lefebvre to defend his position and his condemnation. So for them, it was a big no. No, you can't use Archbishop Lefebvre to say that your action is similar to his, because then we're losing control. We have somebody who is still alive and could say a lot of things. And if people associate him with Archbishop Lefebvre, we're losing control of the narrative. So obviously, I can understand that it's not a comfortable position for them to see. But he defended himself, and he said, Bishop Lefebvre, according to everything he said in the past, would definitely not recognize Francis as being a pope. And we've heard people such as Bishop Sanborn saying the same. How could Archbishop Lefebvre in 2024 think that Francis is the Vicar of Christ, that we owe him submission and obedience, and it's impossible. This man is pushing the New World Order, is pushing the LGBT agenda, he's been pushing the vaccine, he's been pushing all of these things, and transgenderism and what want you. and we would have to believe that this is the sweet Christ on earth. I don't think Archbishop Lefebvre would have fallen for this. I mean, the true respect to his person would be to think that he couldn't fall for this.
Yeah, you mentioned that he's upsetting their chess game. I'm kind of curious. I think it's I wonder if they're trying. Maybe they have a different. Maybe they're having a different approach to how to deal with this issue in a way that's different than the set of Acontis, or is that just am I being naive? in like maybe maybe let's say maybe we're fighting the same battle, but they're going about it in a way that's stealthy and whatever, and we're more upfront and in their face, or is that
Well,
my seconds off on that?
unfortunately, human pride is there, and it's very difficult for us to unite into in the truth and in reacting to the Vatican II Church, because people have adopted the positions. They've written documents for 50 years defending their position, and it seems that many people today don't really care. What they care about is defending their their position. I will tell you a story. When I went in 2017, I went to the Episcopal consecration of Bishop Zendejas in the USA, and I didn't realize at the time that I wasn't invited because I was non unacum. So, but I just heard the news. Bishop Zendejas is being consecrated. Everybody come. We need to support our bishops and so on. So I said, well, I'm a priest. I'm trying to work with the resistance. So let's go there to support Bishop Zendejas. But it was clear that my being non unacum wasn't accepted. So. Father Ringrose, who is a priest, an old priest working there in Virginia, I think
so,
took me apart and told me about Bishop Williamson and about the position of the resistance. He told me, I know what you're going through. I know why you're being put aside. And I will tell you one thing, don't lose time discussing with these people because they're not seeking the truth. So he's really told me this, Father Ringrose, he told me they have chosen a conclusion and all they care about is finding the premises that will bring them to the conclusions they have already chosen. And I think the thing is true for the SSPX. Obviously, they've chosen a conclusion, they've chosen an explanation of this crisis of the church that fits them and allows them to stay in a comfortable position because they can say, oh, we're still recognized by what is considered the Catholic Church, but at the same time we're resisting this Novus Ordo Church. So it allows them to be in between. So all they care about is finding the premises. So if you come into the game as Bishop Vigano and you upset their premises, then their conclusion is threatened and their position of comfort is threatened. So that's what I see. I don't see them as necessarily being evil and trying to destroy the church or anything like this. But as a matter of fact, their position harms the church very much today. But it might not be malice on their part. It might just be human pride and human comfort. They don't want to. It's uncomfortable to change a position that you have to change. You have to review everything. You have to convince everybody to follow you in the new path. And so it's hard to expect a conversion to the right position from them until something major happens. I think that will allow everybody to follow, the right position.